Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, my name is Yaakov Lazar, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Kol Neshamot. It is truly an honor to welcome you to this important and timely event, making Pesach meaningful and hopefully conflict-free, practical strategies for parents of teenagers. Now, let's take a deep breath because Pesach is coming, and with it comes the joy, the beauty, and let's be honest, the stress. We're preparing not only our homes, but our hearts. We're juggling the cleaning, the koshering, the shopping, the cooking, and for those of us raising teenagers, we're also trying to figure out how to run a Seder that keeps everyone at the table past Manish Tana. At Kol Neshamot, our mission is to support families, especially parents of teens who may be struggling, with real tools, encouragement, and a sense of connection. And this is never more relevant than in the weeks leading up to Pesach. The Haggadah introduces us to the Aramidim, the four children, the wise, the wicked, the simple, and the one that doesn't know how to ask. We often focus on what each child says, but there is something deeper. They're all invited to the table. And if you think about it, that's actually the hardest part. Because each child is holding in a different place. They have different levels of engagement, different personalities, and sometimes vastly different worldviews. One may be excited to lead Divrei Torah, and another may be rolling their eyes before you can even get to Kaddish. One may feel deeply connected to Tzias Mitzrayim, and another may be silently questioning the whole story. But the Haggadah doesn't say only the wise one gets to stay. It says bring them all. The greatest success of the night is that they're all at the table. And if you ever run a Seder with teenagers, you know that's a victory. The Haggadah tells us, "B'chol davar dor chayav adam lirot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim." In every generation, we must see ourselves as if we were personally left Egypt. But how can we expect our children to see themselves in the story if they don't feel seen at the table? If the Seder becomes a source of tension instead of connection? That's what tonight is all about. How to hold space for all four types of children. How to manage family dynamics without falling into power struggles. How to make room for questions, even the ones we didn't expect. How to turn Pesach from a pressure-filled production into an opportunity for meaning, healing, and connection. And to help guide us through this journey, we are so fortunate to be joined by two outstanding individuals. First, Rav Tiomkin, an educator, parenting coach, and expert in emotional development. Rabbi Tiomkin brings a compassionate, down-to-earth approach to the often complicated world of parenting teens, with tools that are both practical and deeply rooted in Torah values. And Rav Binyomin Greengrass, a Rav and Posek known for his clarity, warmth, and nuanced understanding of family life and halacha. Rav Greengrass brings an ability to bridge halachically integrity with emotional intelligence, something especially needed at times like this. Together, they'll be helping us explore how to prepare for Pesach in a way that is not only organized and kosher, but also calm, connected, and real. We'll also have a live Q&A at the end, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or you can email them to us at kolneshamot@gmail.com, and in the subject, write questions for Pesach. So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for your families, for your growth, and for your kids, wherever they're holding. May this evening give us a perspective, the tools, and the strength to approach Pesach, not just with full cabinets, but with full hearts. Rav Tiomkin, I'm going to turn it over to you and Bezrat Hashem to give us a few minutes, some chizuk on what to expect a little bit here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for Klal Yisrael and bringing the awareness and the right tools for parents in this subject of chinuch, struggling teenagers. It's not an easy. It's much easier to talk about the ideal Seder, the fantasy Seder from the fantasy world where all the kids are the wise son. But the Haggadah itself tells us that there are also other kinds of sons, and they're all supposed to be seated together in the Seder table. And that's a mission that's not that easy. So I want to talk a little bit about practical tools, also about the preparation for Leil Seder, and also about the Seder itself. However, I want to say a small introduction. I think it's required. And I'll tell a story, true story. Like Avi Fishoff says, all my stories are true. So there was one family that every year they celebrated Pesach, Leila Seder, in the house of the grandparents. And the grandparents had a big house and a big heart, and they invited all the sons and the daughters and their in-laws and the grandkids, one big happy family, great Seder, but grandma and grandpa became old and it became difficult for them. So one of the kids, they had the biggest house, so they said, we'll do the Seder in our house. And they have all the preparation, always preparing for Seder is a little bit stressful, and especially where you're the host of such a huge Seder and many guests. But they all helped. Every one of the brothers and the sisters, they all made something. They made the fish, they made the meat, they made the dessert, and the preparation moved on. But this family had a struggling kid. Her name was Abigail, and she wasn't really functional, and she wasn't really helpful. But the parents were well guided, and they knew that she's having a hard time, and they knew she had her traumas, and she's not really functioning well, and they didn't ask her for too much. And then it became Erev Leila Seder, Yudalet Nisan, and Yud Gimel Nisan, Or ל-14 בודקים את החמץ, they all prepared to do the בדיקת חמץ. In that morning, they made the last wash the house, and one of the girl went there with the broom, and she matate, broom, yes, and she told Abigail, can you move your legs? I want to move and clean over there. So Abigail told her, why are you disturbing me? Go from the other side of the table. So that sister was very much insulted, and she came crying to her mother, and she said, I have had enough. In this house, we have a princess, and we have a meshartim. I'm not a shmate. If she's not helping, I'm not helping. And the other sister also heard her, and she said, I'm joining that strike. If Abigail is not helping, none of us will help. And then the mother lost it. You can understand. She saw how a strike is developing here, a crisis situation. So she came to Abigail and she said, enough is enough. We're not telling you to pray, to daven. We're not telling you what we're asking. You see that we are hosting so many people and the guests. Do the minimum. What are we asking? So this is our house. This is our rules. This is our kingdom. You have to play along and you have to be a team player. You either take the matate and help like any other member of this family, or you're more than welcome to take your legs and feet and move out of the house. You're not welcome here if you're not helping. So Abigail didn't think about it too much. She cursed it, and she took her phone and she left the house and slammed the door. But the mother said, okay, what can I do? I had no choice. She acted so viciously against everyone else. I had no choice. And then evening came, and daddy took a candle and looked for the chametz in all the chorim and all the sdakim. The chametz is like the Yetzer Hora, you burn it, but Abigail is missing. And as the night came and it's become late, they tried to call her, but she doesn't answer. So they called their friends. None of them told them they don't know where she is. They even called the police eventually, but the police said you have to wait 24 hours. They're not really helpful. They went to sleep, and in the morning they woke up and burned the chametz. But Abigail is gone. She's missing. And they didn't know what to do. All the parents came, they gave them the apartments. Leila Seder came. And when they all celebrated and all sat in front of the big table and talked about the 4 sons, when they talked about the wicked son, the door opened, and it was Abigail. On one head, she had a cookie, chocolate chip cookie, chometz, gomor, and on the other hand, she had her smartphone, Leila said yes. And without talking, she went right to the blech, right to the pots, and opened them and made crumbs of their cookie all over the dishes. And of course, Daddy came to her to try to grab her. She immediately called 911. In Israel, it's 100. Police, Daddy is attacking me. He's molesting me. He's a bad, evil person. After a few minutes, sirens, all the neighbors are in the windows. Police came. They took him to the car, arrested him, and she even shut down the electricity and left the whole family sitting there in the dark. True story, sad story. Real terror attack. And I think it happened because they weren't prepared to this night, not to the preparation and not to the Seder itself. I think that if you understand, and we don't have, of course, all the right answers, and it's depend. But if someone is dysfunctional, if kid is struggling, if the executive function part of the brain is not working, then you have to do the right preparations. Now, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're doing this Zoom meeting now, 2.5 weeks before Leila Seder, because before you talk about Leila Seder, you should think or consider doing the right Seder that will, it depends. If the kid is well behaved when there are more guests, then why not? But if you think that if you have to take care of all the uncles and the aunts, and you lose attention from your struggling kid, then it's not the right year to invite everyone. Our main goal here, all the other aunts and uncles, sisters and brothers, in-laws, nephews, they all eventually find the right place to be. But our main responsibility as parents to struggling kids is to make sure that the kids are with us. So, Rabbi Rav Greengrass will follow, of course. I'm not a Rav, I'm not saying halachot, but I think there's a great chidush that in our generation became more common. You can sell or rent to the goy all the places you don't want to check if you do it. Mechirat Yud Gimel, 13th of Nisan, and you write the shtar, you can do it even online, and all the marked places, you don't have to check them. If cleaning for Pesach brings stress to your house, sell it. Sell it. Make a big tent in the living room and be one big happy family. But don't check, don't make the walls whiter, don't clean the fence or the windows. Take it easy as much as you can. Halachic, you just you have to make sure that there is no chametz in the house. And since you can sell those places, if there are struggling kids and it's making you be stressed and not pleasant, do the minimum you can. I have a friend that every year, since he also has a very complicated house with complicated kids, what he does, every year he flies to Kathmandu in Nepal. He flies a connection through Budapest or Athens. It's the price of the ticket is only $200 or $300. Staying there in Bet Chabad is not expensive at all. He says it's much cheaper than doing Pesach here in Israel. And there's no tension. It's a vacation time for everyone. We all love it. I'm not saying flying. There's a big advantage to do Pesach in your own house, in your own comfort, when you run the Seder, in your nigunim, your melodies, your everything, your kosher food. Hotels are not as kosher as home, probably. And yet, have a nice and happy Pesach is a goal that we have to do an effort to keep it. There are so many mitzvot in Leila Seder. We have to eat matzah, we have to eat maror, we have to drink 4 glasses of wine. But there's also a big mitzvah that's called V'samachta b'chagecha. You should be happy. And I think this mitzvah, who by the way, is the whole 7 or 8 days of Pesach. We have to be happy. We have to be real happy. It's not an easy mitzvah. The Gaon Vilna says it's the hardest mitzvah. You have to try to be happy, but you also have the responsibility that your wife and your kids will be happy. So the kids, the Mishnah says you have to give them nuts, or else they will drive you nuts. But nuts is not, I think there's a Hidat Dorot. If you give your kids nuts these days, it won't do the job. You have to be more creative. Maybe a special present with a special dedication in the beginning of Leila Seder. Should prepare to Leila Seder many sweets, I don't know, chocolates or small things that you can share. Eat before Leila Seder. It's also very important. I have a family tradition. My father always did that. He read the Haggadah very, very fast. And only when he came to Shulchan Orech, when we eated, then and only then we were allowed to say more things. But the Haggadah was read fast. Now, I'm not saying that all the other members of the family should suffer because you have a struggling kid who wants to eat first. But if you make sure that you're in the right place, in the right environment, you're not too stressful, you ate something in Erev Pesach. This year it would be easier in a way because it's Shabbos. Erev Pesach this year is Shabbos. So you eat in Shabbos, so you cannot come to the Seder when you're starved. And you read, I'm not saying speedy 20-minute Seder. But if you don't stop on every half hour. Some people read the Haggadah, and there are so many books who gives great voting and perushim on the Haggadah. And if you read one line, then everyone says his own chidushim from his Haggadah, and then you read another line, and eventually it becomes too long and too stressful, and you lose some of the kids who go to the couch, or worse, go to their room, to their smartphone, or to whatever, then you missed it. So you can say, okay, now we're reading the Haggadah. There's a segula to read the Haggadah as is. If someone has a great question, small remark, go ahead, but not longer than 1 minute. On the Shulchan Orech, while we eat the soup, then it's the right time to say your voting, if you want. And it's great. And you can talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim kol halayla, even if you finished and you sang L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habnuya, and then you sing your songs, and then you talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim and the pledges and Makat Tzfardea and Arov, and you talk about it. But it has to be, you have to be cool, you have to be friendly, you have to be in the right environment. ולקיים גם את מצוות ושמחת בחגיך. To be happy is also very important mitzvah that you can't skip it. And you have to make sure, that's what the Mishnah says, you have the responsibility that not only you will be happy, but all the family will be happy. All the other sons will get their answers. And the Sfat Emet says that the 4 sons is not kids. Also, you have in your soul different parts. You have the part that is wise, you have the part that is wicked, and the beastie soul, like the Tanya says, you have the part that is simple. You have to understand exactly what it means, but you have that part too, and you have the part that doesn't know what to ask. All those parts are within you. And when you, in Leila Seder, you get permission to go to inner parts that you don't have access to in regular days. That's the tam, that's the reason why we're not allowed to eat chometz in those 7 days, because you get permission to go to a very deep and inner place in your soul. Your sons are exposed, and while giving your actual sons the right answers, you also become with more emunah, with more bitachon. That night is really big night, but there is a condition. You have to do it in the friendly, nice, kind environment. And it's not easy job because you have different sons all around the same table. You have to juggle a little bit, and you have to know when to sing and when to stop singing and when to eat, and not to eat too much because you want to eat the afikoman when you're not full, but you still have a little bit desire to eat more. Many halachot, if you prepare, if you do small presents with personal dedications, if you speed up and go to the food faster, I think that's the right recipe to a nicer and friendlier and easier Seder. Also, Chol HaMoed is 6 days. Try to find content. These days you have to buy tickets in advance. So now look up what your kids like. They like a concert of Isha Ribo, great, buy tickets now before it's become fully booked. Or amusement parks or whatever. Try to fill your days. If your kids are younger, it's easier. If your kids are older, it's more a challenge because they have different wishes. Now, I'm not sure Isha Ribo is their first priority. And even if you buy a ticket, there's always a chance that in the last minutes they'll say, I don't want to go. And but it's part of the thing. It's part of what's out Yom Tov, and you get a fully refund, even if they don't come. Hotzaot Shabbat veYom Tov. So try to make your days full, nice environment, and smile a lot. It's always helpful. I try to squeeze and give an intense recipe for healthier, nicer Pesach with TP kids. And if you have an inner voice in your head that's telling you, this is it, you can't invite guests anymore, and you're ruined, you can't, no, it won't, this situation will not last forever. What right now, the first priority, your first responsibility is to take care of your kids. If you do it properly, they will be better, Be'ezrat Hashem, in their journey, in the next year or 2 years. They'll come down and you have more options to do the Seder, maybe more your way and more Torani and more Lamdani and more Pilpuli. But right now, if you lose some of your kids because of your fantasies, holy fantasies, then you missed the Ikar.
You're saying about that. It's not only for kids that are really struggling. Teenagers in general, they don't like to do much. I mean, that's just the fact that, especially today's day and age, they just don't like to do much. So especially before the prepping, before Yom Tov, where the stress is probably the highest, I'm thinking that try not, if you have children who are slightly struggling, maybe a little bit more than slightly struggling, don't make Pesach into spring cleaning. Don't make it that you have to take apart the entire house and give yourself the added stress and the added aggravation where you're not going to get the extra help. And you're just going to be asking for help and you're not going to be getting it and you're going to get stressed out yourself. And as Rav was saying, B'samachta b'chagecha is not just only on the Yom Tov, if I'm not mistaken. It's leading up to the Yom Tov as well. You have to be ready with a smile on your face and be excited that Yom Tov is coming in. And you can't be excited with Yom Tov coming in if you're stressed out. So if you find a room that is just not going to happen, dump everything into one room, close it up. I'm not talking about the mamad this year, but I'm talking about, find it if there's another room that's available, a closet or something, stick the stuff in there, just close it up, say, done. Don't drive yourself crazy. Do what you can to make sure that you're calm. And if you're calm and your spouse is calm, your kids will be calm too. And as a matter of fact, they'll come and they'll help a little bit here and a little bit there, and they'll get everything done. But as long as you're calm and you're collected and you're saying to yourself, this is going to be a wonderful Pesach. This is going to be a wonderful Pesach, and we're all going to have fun and we're all going to enjoy. But Azrat Hashem, it will get done and it'll be nice because we're all going into Pesach at the same time. We all going to get there and we're all going to be able to, pretty much going to be at the Seder. It's a Seder. You have to do it. And Rav Greengrass, I think, was going to really give us the ikar of certain areas of the Seder that you're mechuyev to actually say out loud or say together or say somehow. And other areas, if you see that things are stretching out a little bit, you can skip for that moment and come back to it later on. But there is still a Seder, and you have to get there. But you need to get there with a smile, and you need to get there with comfortable.
It's true. I'll say one remark about the Simcha in Yom Tov. I heard a great question. Rabbi Nissim Karelitz asks, many other poskim asks, how can you give a mitzvah? How can you command your heart to be happy? You're either happy or you're not. If you're not happy, what are you supposed to do? To fake it? make a big smile and to dance if you're not happy, and it's pathetic. So how come the Torah, who knows our soul better than anyone, can command about feeling of the heart? It's not something that's realistic. That's what he asks. And he gives a metaphor. You can't command someone to be happy, but you can also command someone to sleep. But we know that there are ways to make someone to sleep. If you take a bath and you put on your pajamas and you close the light and you put your head on the pillow and close your eyes and try to not to think so much about your worries, and eventually you will catch sleep, Bezrat Hashem. So the mitzvah to be happy in Yom Tov doesn't mean to fake it. It means make the right environment, make the right ishtadlut, the right environment in which you will be more relaxed, more calm, and maybe you'll even win and have some sparks and minutes of pure happiness. It's a bonus. This is not what the mitzvah says. The mitzvah says do the right environment, do the ishtadlut to be happy. How do you do it? Drink wine, eat meat. The Gleital says, do whatever, the Yereim says, do whatever makes you happy. If you like, don't do things that will make you not happy. If you have good Holocaust books or the news make you too upset, then don't. But if you have things that make you happy, the Gleital says, if you learn Torah and it's making you happy, then when you learn Torah in Yom Tov, then you will have double, also Talmud Torah and also happy on Yom Tov. Make the right environment in which you can be happy. It's very, very important. It's very, very crucial. And like you said, in the halacha, there's a big, wide spectrum between the ultimate, perfect Pesach and Latzet Yedei Chova. In Chabad, my friend told me, every year he goes to Kathmandu, or he also went to other places. He said that in Chabad, what they do, they have 2,000 or 3,000 Israelis, and they do with them the Pesach, the Chabadnikim, but they don't eat and they don't do everything. They move along with all the tables and make sure everybody's doing everything great. And then in 11 p.m., everybody's leaving. And only then the Chabadnikim are starting their Seder, and they get a great Seder in 1 hour. It's possible. Why? They're sacrificing their Seder? They're not. They're Mezakei Arabim. And it's possible to do your Seder in 1 hour. Here also, I think we're not sacrificing, we're doing what Kadosh Baruch Hu commands us, to have a good Seder under our conditions. It's not a bug in the system that my family looks the way it is. This is big souls, holy souls, Neshamot Torah. We don't know all the calculations, the heavenly calculations, but we do know that if this is the situation right now we're in, our goal is to have a calm, relaxed, and happy Seder. And also, the most important thing, to daven about it. We have to pray. Hashem will allow us in El Seder to taste a little bit, not only the taste of the matzah, but also the taste of freedom, the taste of the beyond that this whole night is connected to.
Kaya, Rabbi Greengrass, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. So I think everything was very well said, and there's not all that much to add on what was discussed so far. I just think that the very, very important thing is for us to always come very, very well prepared and sort of play out in situations in our mind before where things could go wrong, and try having a plan as to what we would do if those things happen. What I mean to say is, anyone that prepares, let's say, a shiur or a daf yomi shiur or for a classroom, at some point you know your students and you know who might ask what question, and you prepare yourself with the answer for whatever's going to be asked. The same thing in our houses. We have different children, we have different dynamics, and we sometimes could, comparing to other situations, other scenarios, we know what might be coming. And the more we prepare ourselves and tell ourselves that no matter what, we're going to keep calm and we're going to, do things with shikul hadas, then the better result we'll get. And I just want to share with you one little story that happened with me. I said something similar to what I just said now in a shiur several years ago. And I was, telling people this is very, very important. Whenever there's a very holy time and a time with tension, we have to know that the Yetzer Hara is sometimes there, and sometimes a very little incident, a comment that's out of place, or some chutzpah or something could throw us off balance and could destroy the rest of the evening. So several years ago, everything was set up for my Seder. We had guests. Everything's beautiful. I come home from shul. And before even starting the Seder, my wife asked me if I can take the pot of meat that we were going to be eating by the meal upstairs to a neighbor to warm it up on their blech because we had no more room on ours. As I was going up the stairs, I missed the step, and I fell with the entire pot of meat. Now, besides that, the pot was now on the floor and there was gravy all over my brand new suit and tie and face. The pot happened to have landed on my finger and actually like broke my pinky. And this was all before the Seder even started. Now, I will tell you, it took me about a half a minute to get a hold of myself and to figure out how I'm going on from here. But I said to myself during those 30 seconds, you said in a shir that you can't let anything tip you off. No matter what, you have to be prepared. I know that now I'm being tested. And you know what? I'm just going to deal with this. Okay, Baruch Hashem, whatever meat stayed in the pot will be able to eat. My finger, I'll manage. I'll suffer quietly. My suit, I'll change. My glasses, I'll clean. And within a few minutes, everything was under control. This did not affect my Seder. We had a beautiful Seder. Had I not come in prepared, knowing that no matter what, I am not going to let anything, destroy the Seder, it would have been a completely different experience. So, everyone knows their koichos, everyone knows, their challenges, and we're not prophets, we can't, know everything up front, but we can have an idea, and we can tell ourselves that, as was said, there are about 64 mitzvahs, they say in the name of the Goyim, that we're Makayim on Lela Seder, and everyone's tried figuring out what those 64 are. Some came up with even more than 64 mitzvahs. But whatever it is, we know which mitzvahs are midaraisa and which are midrabanan. The mitzvah of, as was said, v'samachta b'chagecha is absolutely midaraisa. The mitzvah of yigadet lebincha, of giving over this tradition of Yitzias Mitzrayim, our chinuch that we give over, is absolutely deraisa. The kazayis of matzah is deraisa. But everything else is just rabbanan. So we have to know what's ikr and what's tafel, and we have to just keep things in the right atmosphere. And the Seder is supposed to be a beautiful experience. As far as length of, divrei Torah and things like that, we think that the mitzvah of kol hamarbe is after saying the Haggadah, whatever we add on that. When Reb Chaim Kanievsky was asked, what is kol hamarbe l'saper b'yitzias Mitzrayim? He said, that's saying the Haggadah. Meaning, not everything the Haggadah is absolutely necessary. There's piyutim and there's drashos. The essence is Pesach Matzu Mara. The Bal HaHaggadah already was marbe l'saper. So by just saying the Haggadah, we're already being marbe in Yitzias Mitzrayim. And by the table of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, that's what went on, Lala Seder. He just said the Haggadah. As Rav Dan said, when it comes to the suit, of course, there's room to add Vertloch, sometimes that's what the children want, and that's what's going to make it a positive experience. Sometimes, we have to rush things up because people are hungry and they're becoming impatient. We have to balance. This is our job. We have different ages, different levels, different children, and that is our job as parents, to have the right balance to make it beautiful, sweet, fun, exciting, calm for everyone. There's a beautiful book where a Talmud of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman writes his experience of the Lela Seder by Rabbi Chanan, and he says the exact same thing. He said he just read the Haggadah, and there was nothing over, just what it said in the Haggadah. So we don't have to feel like we're being mekel or we're not being mahader in the mitzvah if we just say the Haggadah. No, by saying the Haggadah, we're already being marbe l'saper b'yitzias Mitzrayim. So I think that with that, everything that needed to be said as far as that was said. And
okay, so I'm going to ask a question just came in. This is relatively quite tough. I'm gonna throw this first to Rav Dan. So, how do we manage all those, especially with the story that you were mentioning earlier? There are going to be times we're going to have situations where a teenager or maybe another child will not help. Whether it's Yontif, whether it's for Shabbos, they're just done. They're just not going to help. Do we just accept it and move on, and run Pesach like a hotel, in a sense? Or, in a sense, we want to be prepared, as what we're talking about just now, We just want to be prepared. And I think it comes to a point in time, I think, as Rav Greengrass just mentioned, we have to think about, we come into the Seder, which is also, like you said, a mitzvah d'oraisa. Your children have to be at the table in order to tell them. If we're going to fight before Pesach and argue before Pesach about the cleaning and all this stuff, they might not join us at the Seder. So the mitzvah d'oraisa, v'gata lebincha, is not available to me if my child is not at the table. So how do we work with the situation when we know in advance, like here we are 2.5 weeks before, we know in advance, we have a child who doesn't help. And of course, there's a side question, like you were saying earlier with your story, is that what about the other children? How do we deal with that as well? My thought process, in a sense, is first of all, you talk to the other children and explain to them that this particular child, this particular teenager, is going through a very, very difficult emotional time. And this is not the time to start the fights with them. We are working on it, and we're going to do it step by step in a certain way that we're especially, Bezrat Hashem, want everybody here to understand that, you have a phone line, you can get the guidance if you really need it on a regular basis. But you want to be able to be prepared in advance. So how can we make sure that the house is running okay, with a smile on our face when we know for a fact that this child is not going to help? So done.
Well, Chinuch is always a very delicate balance between small docha and yamin mekarevet. On one hand, you should have discipline and red lines. And one of our goals in Chinuch is to train our kids to be functional and to do their roles and to do their tasks and to see us as parents, as people sharing the same roof and to help. So it's a very, very important thing to teach and to guide and to educate, to help. And this is small docha. Sometimes you have to say, don't be a bum. Help me out here. Be a mensch. We need your help. But when you ask things that someone can't do, then it just makes him hate you, and to have triggers from your holidays and from your tradition, then you miss the point. Now, on regular chinuch, on classic chinuch, I think you are entitled, of course, to ask for help. Of course, if you prepare, if you do a plan in advance and you schedule, today we'll do your room in the morning, and in the noon we'll go to the beach. And the next day you'll do that, and if you have it all done, then maybe the next day we have a whole day in the Kinneret. I don't know. Schedule your time with enough intensives, and maybe you'll get the right help. If someone is dysfunctional, he has his traumas. We know that trauma, post-trauma stress disorder, is a disease that makes the executive function part of the brain not to function well. And if he has problem with delaying gratification, and he has problem with planning ahead, and he has problem with seeing others, he's not faking it. If he was healthy and regular, he would do what he has to do like all the others. And if he can't, then if I will shout and yell and give bad atmosphere here, it will make Pesach his trauma, his trigger. We don't want that. This is not what we want. So sometimes you have to I don't know if you should make him totally off the parsha. Give him some small things to do. And if he does them, maybe you can give him a little bit more. So he will feel that he's a part of the preparations, but like I wouldn't give things to an 8-year-old, the same task I would give to an 18 years old, the same way exactly I wouldn't give someone who is dysfunctional the same task I would give the functional kid. And if the functional will say it's not fair, I would tell him, okay, you're right. It requires a little bit explanations why your brother is right now not in his right mind. I wouldn't use the word sick or mentally ill. It's too severe. But maybe we should daven for him, and we should pray for him that he'll be better. Right now he has his issues, and try to make it up and give the righteous, wise kids the right gifts and the right attention so they won't feel they are losing by helping. And the most important thing, lower your expectations from everyone. Use your kulas to sell or rent to the goy whatever you can, so the preparations will be nicer, and do it while hearing music and drinking beer. It's also beer chometz, and in the right chilly, smiley, musically friendly environment, the preparation and the cleaning would be much easier.
Now, Greengrass, would you like to add anything to that?
I would just say, that a child that's not helping, I don't think that's an issue. That's something that has to do specifically with Leila Seder or Pesach. I mean, there's obviously something wrong, in the whole chinuch of that child from day one. Why does the child not understand something which has nothing to do with Yiddishkeit? It's, an issue of menschlichkeit. Derech Eretz, you live somewhere, others should be your slave. Don't you feel you should partake in what's going on? If a child doesn't, there's obviously something wrong in what's going on. And, it's much deeper than just Leila Seder. All I would say is that, again, it's not worth it to lose that environment that you want over Yontif, definitely not of the Seder. And probably a good idea would be in such a home, not to have sanctions or punish a child that's not helping, but to create some sort of motivation to get children to help more, like saying, we're going to do a mitzvah. And whoever participates and, helps be noisei in the all of the house, we're going to do a special trip and they'll get to be part of the trip. Something, obviously very exciting. So in a positive way, to try to create, I would say, more motivation that children should want to help. I would say a father should be talking to his children, not directly about help now, but about how overworked mommy is, and let's try to do whatever we can to make things a little bit easier for her. And, create a better chinuch in this area of children feeling, that they should be, not parasites, but mature enough to understand that you should be part of what's going on around you. Sometimes there's issue of maturity. Sometimes, but if a child is struggling with Yiddishkeit and now trying to get that child to help, is going to be a battle, has something to do with Yiddishkeit, then it's not worth it. You can't afford that battle. There's more important battles. And I would just leave it and, try to plan in general how to deal with this issue on a regular basis.
Just now, 2.5 weeks before, I mean, Baruch Hashem, most of our houses, especially here in Eretz Yisrael, are with tile floors. So it's very easy to sweep, in a sense. Choose one room at a time. Take it easy on yourself. Don't make the spring cleaning, I think, out of the whole house, and turn every room and every closet and every drawer inside out and upside down. To more stressful, because yes, you're going to need the help. When it comes to the kitchen is the hardest room in the house to clean. No question about it. I think it's going to be very difficult. And when you have other children in the house who are just not going to help, no matter how much you say and stand on your feet, or if you scream, the louder you scream, the more they're going to ignore you, to be honest with you. So it's best not to get yourself into that situation. And just take it step by step and clean by and do one piece at a time and work together with the other ones. And you know what? When the other ones help a little bit more than they usually do because one child is not helping, find 20 minutes or half an hour, and there's an ice cream store probably not too far from your apartment. It's probably not far. And you take that child and you give them buy them an extra ice cream cone. Show them, the other ones, that I see how much you're helping. I see how much you're doing. Let them know that how much you appreciate everything that you're doing, that they're doing. It doesn't mean you ignore the child that's not helping. It means you say to the child, listen, I really would appreciate your help. If you feel that you cannot, I get it. I understand. No problem. If there is something that you can feel that you can do to help me, I'm all ears. It's up to you to decide what to do. And you keep dialogue. Keep the dialogue open. Never close dialogue.
Right.
Again, if anybody else has any other questions, go ahead. Go ahead, Rabbi.
I just wanted to, we as guys don't seem to have this Yetzer Hara that women have. It seems to be one of their biggest Yetzer Haras to really, really be machmir when it comes to Pesach cleaning. Now, from a halachic point, Pesach cleaning is not difficult. It's quite simple. There's, like you said, that spring cleaning and the emotional part of it and the social part of it. And that's okay as long as it doesn't become a chumrah de asi lidei kula. We know that in halacha, we always have to be careful for something that we think is a chumrah and it actually leads to a kula. So if this chumrah of overdoing it and then being a wreck yourself emotionally and physically leads to going into yontif and not being able to have proper simchas yontif, not being able to be makayim the mitzvahs of the Seder properly, then that is absolutely a chumrah dasi lidei kula, and it's actually not coming from a good source. It's a Yetzer Hara like any other Yetzer Hara. This year, Baruch Hashem, going into Pesach the way we go in, we have, Shabbos being Erev Pesach, so it's a little bit better because at least, that day there'll be rest and everyone comes into the Seder, somewhat rested up. But, any ladies listening to this, it's a very important thing to know that, anything that's not necessary and is just a chumrah, it's okay, it's fine, but make sure that it's not a chumrah de asi l'dei kula, because that's already, that's not the Yetzer Tov, that's the Yetzer Hara.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions here. It's a couple of questions that kind of came in advance. Let's talk about mechiras chametz. We have a situation where we have a child in their own room. Unfortunately, they're not following halacha the way we would like them to be. Now it comes to mechiras chametz. Your child is going to have a chametz in his room. Can we sell his room without his permission?
Okay, so we're allowed to do mechiras chametz on behalf of someone else that doesn't even know that we're selling it for them. Like if we know there's a secular Jew that's not going to be selling his chametz, we can sell his chametz for him because of something called zachin la'adam shaloi b'fanav, right? Without his knowledge, we could do something which is a schus for him. And it's a schus for him because it's preventing him from being over isurim, and it's a schus for him because then after Pesach, this chametz will be permissible. So midin zachin, we're allowed to sell his chametz. When it comes to a room, you want to sell your son's room, it's more problematic because the mechira has to be a mechira which is serious. And just like we know, whatever we sell, we're not supposed to go into. Some say, you could go in once or twice, but once we start going freely, then we're making a joke out of the mechira because if it's sold, you're not supposed to be going into there. Or if you sold a certain cabinet, that's supposed to be closed, and you're not supposed to be going into the cabinets. If one time by mistake you have to open it because you forgot something in there, okay. But if every hour you're opening that cabinet, you're making the mechira into a joke. So the better eitzah in such a situation is rather than selling his room, it's to be mafkir his room, right? You say in front of 3 people, I am being mafkir that room, and now it doesn't belong to me. And once it doesn't belong to you, you're not responsible for any chametz that's in it. So that's the solution, for such a thing, to be mafkir, whatever place, if he has a certain cabinet, if it's the whole room, be mafkir it. When you're mafkir something, you're still allowed to go into it, and we don't say that it's automatically, you're being kohen it back. That's the solution, to be mafkir it.
Okay. So now that we have that in mind, now we were mafkir, a child's room. Okay, in something like Rav Dan, here's a question for you. In a sense, and of course, Rav Greengrass, I would like to hear your point of this on as well. We have a child who specifically says, "I'm going to eat chametz on Pesach." They're going to say they're going to do it. They're going to have it in their house. They're going to have it in their room or whatever it is that they just don't want, for whatever reason this year, we just didn't get to them in time to be, calm and working with us. One recommendation I can mention is something like this, and Rav Binyomin, you will let us know, again, halachically, if this is permissible per se, is in a sense giving the child a refrigerator, like a little mini fridge in his room, or possibly even some kind of hot plate machine that can sort of cook in his room. So whatever it is that he decides to bring or have in the house, he goes into his room and it's like a little apartment. From what I understand, Rav Dan, you can add on to this, please, is that here you're showing the child, I understand where you're holding, and I accept you for you, and I love you. We have our chumras. I'm asking you to please leave my refrigerator and my kitchen, chametz free, but you have your room. Rodan, what would you how do you feel about that?
Well, I think like Rav Greengrass said before, Pesach is not the source of the problems. Pesach just pops them up. I think if someone is not cooperative and doesn't understand it from himself, then you need to hear more guidance about how to deal with your kid. Because if the parents are properly guided and they're using the right tools, the bombs, and they're accepting their kid, then even if he's not tzaddik gomor, he will be more cooperative and he will respect you, and he knows that you're a house that sells chometz. And if it's not the situation, I think with all the respect to a Zoom preparation about Pesach, you need to hear more guidance. I can only recommend, I'm sure that Kol HaNeshamot is organizing workshops and shiurim, and Rabbi Shimon Russell's book, Raising a Loving Family, Rabbi Shimon Russell's lectures, Rabbi Fishov's lectures, Rabbi Fishov's groups. I think you should, my book, Teen Angels, I think that they're Unripe Angels, sorry. There are so many sources to get the right guidance and to hear the right guidance and to avoid this question. If, after having said that, if this is the situation and the kid is eating chometz, I don't think I should burn him along with my chometz, because it will not be helpful. And if in the bottom line I will kick him out of the house so he wouldn't put chometz in my house, then I think it will be a big trauma for him and not very useful. I'm not sure I can give the right halachic solutions. That's why Rav Greengrass is here. But I think that if he has his own kingdom, his own, I'm mafkir his room, and he knows that I'm not going in his room because this is his territory. I don't think what I should do in Pesach is snoop and detect and fight and have fights in Pesach. What did you bring in the house? It's his house. If I respect him and I give him his space and ask that he would respect our territory because this is our life, I think when the kids see that we respect him and we're giving him his small autonomy, I think he would respect us either. And again, we have a red signal here that's telling us we should learn more about twisted parenting, crisis chinuch, whatever you want to call him. There are more guidance you have to know to avoid those situations in the next years.
Rabbi Greengrass, how would you like to approach that?
Yeah, I mean, look, once a child is bar mitzvah, it's not your responsibility anymore. There's no reason for you to even know what he's doing or, give any kind of teichacha that will be totally useless, will have the opposite effect. You do yours, which is to make sure that you're not being over on Bal Yiro, Bal Yamatzeh. Once you are mafkir his room, it's now out of your jurisdiction, and the best thing is not to even know what's going on with him. And the less, you get in his way, the more of a chance that hopefully the next year around, he'll be in a better place.
Okay, so I'm going to ask just a couple of quick questions because I know you do have to leave, but I'm going to ask just a couple of quick questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Kitnius, is it permissible, for you to have kitnius in your house? Usually us Ashkenazim, we do not have any kitniyot. We have a child who absolutely must have kitniyot on Pesach.
Right. So the answer is that kitnius is only asr b'achila. There's no isser of bal yiro, bal yamatzeh. There's no isser of hana from kitnius. We're makel with kitnius for a baby, right? We're makel for a choyle. It's a question whether it's a gzeira derabanan, whether it's just a minug. Obviously, we cannot, as Ashkenazim, be mezalzel in it, but it's not chametz, right? So having it in the house is not a problem. And if that's the only thing that a person can eat, and then he's begeder a choila. So yes, obviously it's not near the level of chametz. In the times when there was hunger in Yerushalayim and things like that, Rabbanim got together and were mater kitnius. I mean, obviously again we're not mezalzel, and it's something which is like a Rabbanon. But for a choila or for certain situations, obviously we're mekel. But having it in the house is not a problem.
I'll only add
As far as
information. I think that post-trauma PTSD is considered sometimes affect pikuach nefesh or chole sheyesh bo sakon.
Absolutely, without a question.
So I'm not saying
Without a
every struggling kid automatically gains all the profits and all the heterim. You should ask that Torah.
No two situations are the same, but absolutely, these situations are definitely together a choila, and there's room to be mekel for sure.
Most importantly, I want everybody to understand something, is that if there's a question in your mind and you're not sure if it should be asked, ask the question. Because there's no such thing as a silly question, especially when it comes to a child who may be struggling, whether it's a child with ADHD or whether it's a child with PTSD. There are certain situations that for that particular child, certain things that you think may be usher, and that's going to cause you problem. Ask the shaila, and you can find out how to go about it. So I know.
Right. I'll just share with you on that. The other night, a father came over to my base hayro with a 12-year-old girl, and they were fighting in the house over 3 issues, and somehow he convinced her to come, and she ended up walking out. 2 of the 3 answers were that it's okay. And her father said to me, this was a major win, because he asked her after they left, would you feel comfortable going back again to ask shaylas? And she said, yes. So yes, absolutely. Ask questions. Sometimes, you'll be very surprised by the answer, but it's the right thing to do. You don't lose from asking.
But
Correct.
also add a little remark. I think when you ask the questions, you should tell the background of the question, because if you ask a regular Rav without mentioning that your kid is struggling, that he is PTSD, we post-traumatized, he suffered from molestation, that he's suicidal, all those small, not
Sure.
very important details.
Yes, we have to keep in mind that Rabbanim are not prophets, and ein l'dayan ela ma she'einav ra'ot. The question is going to be answered the way the question is asked. So absolutely, share all background information. Every little detail can change the halacha mikatzeh el katzeh.
The halacha of the drinking 4 cups of wine or grape juice. Kid's not going to drink the wine. He says, I don't like grape juice either. I'll sit at the table, but I'm not doing the kosov. Do we try to convince him to at least have a cheekful, or do we just not say anything?
Again, if it depends on the situation, if it'll go over well, getting him to at least have a cheekful, then yes. If he's not even going to have that, then no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. It's his mitzvah. We are not responsible, and we do our best. If he can't have it, there is the concept of having, like a fruit juice even in the place of, wine or grape juice. Obviously, it's not something l'chatchila or, something we'd prefer, but if he's not going to have something else, then that's also an option, better than nothing.
Does anybody else have? Go ahead, Rabbi.
I want to have a small remark, not about this question, but a general remark. I think sometimes our expectations from Leila Seder are very, very high, because we have our fantasies and we have our memories from the Leila Seder of our grandfather and my father, and we want to have a perfect Seder. And sometimes there's a very big gap between my fantasies and reality, and this gap is making us very, very frustrated and not kind and not nice and not relaxed and not chilled and not calm. So what I want to suggest, when you know the fact that you're having the Seder, and Baruch Hashem, look at the full part of the glass, and look the fact that your kids are here, and there are so many mitzvot from those 64 that they are actually participating in and making. And what we really need, sparks, memories, small sparks of connection to the beyond. This is our expectations. So those sparks, I think we will have small, and even in the end of Leila Seder, to make a small workshop and to ask what was your favorite minute from this Seder, your memory. Sometimes he won't remember everything, but he will remember that he sat in front of the Seder table and he heard his father says, "Avod imeinu leparva Mitzrayim." Sometimes it will be a small joke or a small, very not important thing, but this he will take and he will carry it with him. Sometimes he will say it, sometimes he won't say it, but it's there. Don't expect the topic Seder. If you have struggling kids, there will be a gap. Try to have small sparks, small minutes, small seconds of connection, of good atmosphere, and this is a very, very big gain. After all, the real goal of the Leila Seder is not the experience and the chavaya. We're doing a big tikkunim here in the big world, and when we know that, and we know that from the experience side, we're only aiming for sparks, and everything else is a win-win situation, and we should cherish those moments, and Bezrat Hashem, that will make us more chilled and calm, and that will bring more moments like that.
Okay. Rav, if there's one more question I can ask you, before I know you have to leave. The shear of matzah. Sometimes we go ahead, we take a whole matzah, we break it in half, we make it, and we give it to everybody. A whole matzah, or it's like we don't even want to check the sizes. What is the actual size, the shear of the amount of matzah that you need to heave l'dei chavasa?
Right.
So you don't have to.
As we know,
you want to give
right.
the kid that little.
There are different. Right. Yeah, there are different. Obviously different opinions amongst the poskim. And we're machmer and doiraisas. Basically, the Stipler said the size of a kazayas of a hand matzah is basically the size of a person's hand. So once you got bigger than the hand, that's basically a kazayas again, without actually weighing, and that's hard to know exactly, but that's what's mekubal. It's, there's charts that they sell in the farm stores. You can get like a chart where, you can see exactly if you put the matzah on the chart, with a machine matzah, it's, let's say, a half a matzah, but that's basically the share, around the size of a hand. So, we eat more than one kazayas, but again, if a person has difficulty with and that, they should eat at least that one kazayas, which is deraisa, and obviously there's afikoymin, but a kolafionian.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, very good. All the best.
Greengrass had to go for now, but Rav Tiomkin and I will be staying here. Okay, so here's a good question that came in, Rav. What if the struggling teen is going to drink the cups of wine in order to get drunk? And it's going to affect the rest of the table. It's going to the effect of the other siblings. I know listen, there are different types of drunkenness and different types of situations. Let's be prepared. That's what we're doing here tonight. We're being prepared. So if you already know that your child is going to drink the wine and is going to get a bit tipsy because of this, how do we prepare ourselves and what do we do?
Okay, so I think that the big problem is on the third and the fourth cup, because the first two are not that, it's in the beginning, only the first one, and the second one is during the meal. I think buy less wine and more grapefruit. And when you get to the third and the fourth cup, there are no bottles of wine, only grapefruits, it's much easier. The same answer is if you have someone who is Mechalel Shabbos. And we should buy wine that is boiled and there's no problem, or grapefruit. And I think that there is a big advantage. Some of the poskim says that regular wine is better. There's a priority to drink wine and not grapefruit. But if the situation is that someone will be drunk and nasty and violent, then don't have wine on your table that much. Only a little bit for the first cup, and then, oops, we ran out of wine. Okay, we'll drink grapefruit. It's also good. And if it's not possible, and he will drink, what can you do? I heard from Rav Biderman, he says, Im shotim lo noagim, if you don't drink and drive. So he said that's the secret of all Leila Seder. If you drink, then you understand that you're not the one who's driving, you're not the one in control on this world. And like they say on Purim, that sometimes in Purim you have sparks and moments of awareness and moments of soul, נכנס יין, יצא סוד, and sometimes, especially in those moments, people say, I love you, I love the Torah, I love Klal Yisrael. They say, drunk people sometimes say silly things, but sometimes they show us their inner souls and how pure they are from the inside. So if that kid will drink, let's hope and pray that he will either fall asleep or take it better than he does on a regular day. The Zchut Yom Tov, the holiness of this day, will affect him better. There is,
Okay.
and after all I said, there is a risk, and you can't avoid anything. You should be happy that he's getting drunk from wine or from whiskey on Leila Seder.
I mean, I think it's best when it comes to children who, if we're talking about they're going to drink a little bit too much, or if it's listen, a lot of what we try to do, yourself, myself, Kol Shemot, and what you try to teach as well, it's very important is being prepared, is being guided, right? When you see something going on, because usually us as parents, we don't see things early enough. We only see it when it's happening. When the issues become kind of out of hand. Unfortunately, you have many children that do drink a little bit too much, even on during the week. We also have children who unfortunately may smoke marijuana or take other types of drugs. And you're afraid that they're going to have that at the night of the Seder, and it's going to mess up and make things crazy beforehand. I think what we've said here before, well, Don was saying it earlier, is you need to get guidance specifically to be prepared in order to what to do beforehand. So it's not just about the alcohol. If they're doing the alcohol, and if the teenagers are doing some, type of drugs, whether it's marijuana, there's something else going on. The children are not doing these things in order to fight the system. It's not a fighting system. What they're using these things are, it's generally the first time they may use it is because a friend showed it to them. Maybe they got it from a friend, or they were at a party and the people were doing it. When they realize that it's a pain medication, let's put it this way, to them, smoking the marijuana or drinking the alcohol is the same as for most of us taking Advil or Acamol for a headache. We're trying to alleviate the pain. And when they're smoking or when they're drinking, to them, the pain that they're actually feeling inside is not there. So why wouldn't I do it? So our job as parents is to remove that pain. We'll take away the alcohol use and we'll take away the drug use, because there's no reason for a child who's not in pain to do any of those things. With that being said, you need to talk to your child. So to give a real specific situation, if anybody has that kind of question that is really needed, that really needs to be, the whole background has to be given. But I think broadly, I would suggest, first of all, is having a conversation with the child before you. Quietly, privately, go for a walk, take them out to eat. Somewhere where there's going to be comfortable, and just say, hey, listen, I get it. You're not comfortable with the whole situation with Pesach. It's hard for you for whatever reason. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to talk to you. Is it possible that this year of Pesach, this year of the Seder, we don't drink as much alcohol, or we don't do the marijuana, during the Seder time? Afterwards, at 12 o'clock, the kids are asleep. The tables are being cleaned. I'm not asking you to clean up. The garden is all yours. If hopefully you have a nice, property and you set it up already for him in advance or her. But talk to them in advance. See what their needs are. See what their wants are. See what their feelings are. Without judgment, and be curious with them. You can prevent, hopefully, things getting worse. Don, what would you suggest a situation like that? Would you agree to that?
I totally agree. I just want to say one thing you said, and I want to make drums sound effects before it. You should do this great conversation after they ate, to take them to a pizza, to take them to eat burger or steak, not together, either pizza or a steak or burger. Sushi, you can do it when they're not hungry. Do it when they are relaxed, this conversation, and take the risk that even after this conversation, they might drink a little bit too much. Again, it's a painkiller for them. If they are officially diagnosed as PTSD, they will have those drugs as painkillers. It will be a prescription. And sometimes it's not officially, but if they want it, it means they are in pain and they need their painkillers. So if it affects other, then of course we try to find the right architectural solutions that others won't be affected. But if this kid needs his painkiller, they don't look at him as wicked and as a evil person who wants to destroy our Seder. I look at him as Nebuch, he's in pain. And if this is the right approach, this is the right attitude in the long run, then he won't feel the urge to destroy and to ruin our lives. He will get the right accepting love, which is the real medication here, and then eventually he will need less and less painkillers. So if I think this will be a catastrophic event, maybe I want to invite less guests this year, and maybe I want to prepare him and the other siblings and my spouse, and pray for miracles and for Chamei Shamayim that will say they will go out fine. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I have a full year now, 364 days until next Seder. And if I'll do a lot of bombs and accepting love and all the right crisis chinuch guidance, in Be'ezrat Hashem, next year he will need less painkillers than this year, and it would be much better. His pain would be much more in control. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Here's another interesting question. What if we have a child that we're looking at it, we're reading the Rabbanim, and our thought always goes to this child, this is my Russia, this is my Russia, this is my Russia. But there's more to this. We know that this child is going to ask questions sarcastic. They're going to ask questions, make fun of maybe the Seder. They may make fun of the way we do things, the shirim and all this kind of stuff. Now, this is not halacha per se. This is just something where it's possible that one child may decide to disrupt the Seder in a way. My feeling is, to that answer, to my answer to this in a sense, Rodan, is saying that this child is making these comments in order to get attention and to see how you're going to react. Meaning, if they're pushing buttons, it's because you're fighting back with them. When you stop fighting with them, when you stop arguing back with them, and you can say to them, you know what, that question is a really good question. Let's discuss this later. Or let's go and find the safer and let's see if we can find the answer together. You're not fighting with him. And there's no reason for him to even ask you the questions the next time, because he's not goading you. And he's not going to get you. The idea is you might have a child. Just the whole point, I think, the whole Haggadah, Higad Bincha, is that no question is silly. No question should be turned away, and no question should be said, that's chutzpah. I think we should turn to the child and say, that's a great question. Let's see if we can figure this out together later. What would you do how would you respond to that?
Yes, I totally agree. I think that never in history, by arguing, one of the sides said, whoa, you're so right. I don't know how I missed that. You're so right. That's the right answer. And you won. Totally won. Never. arguing. Every side is more convinced in what he's saying, and he's not even listening usually to the other side. So there's no point of arguing. בטח שלא on Seder night. Arguing is useless. You can give your kid a hug and say, okay, let's agree to disagree on that subject. Or your question is great. You know, the Ramchal wrote a whole book about your question, and if you want, we can learn it. But right now, let's do the Agadah. Don't go to those corners. You can never win from going to those corners. Now, he might ask you, what are you, chicken? What are you avoiding my questions? And I'm not avoiding if you want. I don't know how to give the one-line answer. There's a whole books about it. I think Rav Yonatan Zaks from England said that one of the advantages that to live in a religion that has more than 3,000 years tradition, that you can't really find a very good question that no one has ever thought and no answers were given to. We have so many books with all the questions to all the answers to all the questions. We have them. What, you're smarter than the Rambam, you're smarter than the Gaon Vilna and the Baal Shem Tov and all the tzaddikim. You thought about the amazing questions, everything. We have answers to everything. So you don't have to be so tense. The other siblings are looking at your response more than they are looking at his fabulous, smart question. And if they see that you are calm, you're saying there are answers. If you want, we can check it out later. Now that we're doing the Agadah, and you're not losing it, you're not going to arguing and losing your temper, then everything will be fine. And I don't think that he really needs the theological answers. What he really wants to see how you react, and if you react calm, and you still love him, and you're smiling, and everything is okay, I think it's a very, very big lesson, he said here.
Yeah, I think if you do that calmly and you do that with a loving smile, and say we will definitely get back to that. I think the child, in most cases, will first of all they'll take a step back because that's not the way you answered me in the past. But they're showing that I get it. I get who you. I get what you're doing. I understand where you're holding right now. And I think regular chinuch, like you were saying earlier, even in regular chinuch today, it's a little different than it used to be. Teenagers today, begadol. Regular, normal teenagers, bigadol, are not the most helpful in most cases. There are some that are, listen, you will find definitely plenty of girls who are out there and willing to help and love the cleaning and enjoy being prepared and helping with the baking and helping with the cooking. And there are going to be those that are out there. But bigadol, teenagers have better things to do. They want to be with their friends. They want to be out and about. They want to go shopping. They want, the school is off. It means I'm on vacation. I don't need to do anything.
Especially not
and I think very much, and I think it's very important to understand that when you look at even a child who's struggling, and almost as if they're just being a little bit stronger on the normal teenagers. They're being stronger in their aspects of what they're going through. And if your child, if your child is struggling, and it's not going to wake up and show up Erev Pesach. This has been going on already for weeks, months, a year. I don't know. I can't answer the question how long you've been dealing with it. But your child, what's going to happen. Have conversations beforehand. Prepare yourself. It's not worth the aggravation for yourself. It's not worth the aggravation for your spouse. And it's definitely not worth the fighting with all the rest of your children. I think as Rav Dan, I don't know, I think you would agree that even talking to the other siblings, as listening out to Pesach, the ones that will help versus the ones that don't help, when you speak to the ones that will help beforehand and say, listen, your sibling is struggling right now. They're having a hard time. Fighting is not the time. We can't have going into Yom Tov with fighting. I need your help to be with me on this, and we'll do it together. I'm going to step up to the plate. I'm asking you, can you please help me step up to the plate with me? Don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you. I'm watching. I see what you got. You want to
And buy
prepare
the ice cream. And buy the ice cream. It's also a very important condition here.
the ice cream. Just get them something. For your daughters who are going to be putting in extra work, make sure you buy them a piece of jewelry. If they're going to be working hard, make sure you go and you buy them a bracelet or an earring or something, especially a teenage girl. Buying them a piece of jewelry for Yom Tov would make them so happy. And for a boy, just make sure you get him the shirt that he always wanted or the pair of shoes that he likes so much, which he may or may not be allowed to wear to school. But the point is, it shows that you're seeing them and you're seeing what's going on. Be besimcha. So if I'm offering, as far as if anybody would like, my phone number is available. You can text me anytime through now, through Yom Tov, including Yom Tov. If you have any questions, please send them in right away. We'll talk about it and we'll get things done. Don, would you have any closing statements? Because I see that Baruch Hashem, not too many more other questions.
I want to thank you, Lazar. You're a very special person. I think your organization and you are doing it with real shlichut and real caring and loving for Klal Israel, and you raise up the awareness. It's a very big thing, and you also talk very nice. I think you are talking your English is much better than mine. I want to apologize at this point for my accent and for my poor English. I tried my best. Pesach is a big challenge and it is stressful with all the great holy festival we have. It is stressful, and with the right preparation, like you said, and the right mindset, we can make it even a little bit fun and less stressful. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I really wish we all, as the coping with struggling kids community, will have a great Leila Seder with great sparks of happiness and even much more than that.
And I'd like to say thank you, especially to Rav Don. You've given a lot of clarity, a lot of compassion and understanding for many parents going through. The real understanding and just to be able to help parents to let them know that they're not alone. There are many people going through this, and a lot of these questions have been asked before. So the situation is not new. You're not, the parents out there, you're not alone. And you have people like Rav Don who have given such beautiful shiurim and beautiful, lectures about really what your child is dealing with and what's going through their minds. And I really appreciate that. And especially you joining us here tonight, especially during busy season. As for some people, we have all different types of busy seasons. Getting before Yom Tov is probably is busy season for you. So I really do appreciate you spending the night with us and being with us tonight. And to all the parents and everybody that came on tonight, I want to say thank you very much for taking out the time, because you know what? You're stepping up to the plate. You realize that I got to do something and I need to work on something, and I need to be there for my child a little bit more than maybe I've been there for. Now, it's not a blame. It's not a knock or a judgment against anybody. Situations occur without our knowledge, without our understanding, and we don't know. And we as parents get blindsided by the situation because it's very fast. We have a child who's 13, may have been beautiful and wonderful and having great grades. And all of a sudden they hit 14 plus and the grades fall apart. They stop going to school as much as they have in the past, getting up late. There's arguments more, and it becomes a cycle. It becomes a cycle. When you have to understand the whole idea, and what Pesach, I think, is the essence of what Pesach is trying to teach us, is really understand the God to Lebincha. First, you got to get them to the table. And once you get them to the table, understand there are 4 types of situations that you can have. You can have a child who knows everything and is going to answer everything and is perfect and is wonderful, and he's going to really be part of it, right, and step up and do everything that's really necessary to do. And you can have the child that's just angry all the time. The child that's just, I refuse to do whatever there is to do. And you think, but to be honest with you, sometimes that's not the worst situation. Sometimes you have the child that doesn't even know how to ask. They don't know how to talk. They don't even know what to say and what to come from. You have to put the words into their mouth and help them through it and help them go through it. And then you have the Tom who's just then you have the Tom who's not there. Everything just flies right by him. And is quiet and is just like not paying attention to anything. Point is, if you think about it logically, we all have that in ourselves. I think Rabbi was mentioning this earlier. We hold that as a part of ourselves. We have a part of ourselves. Some days we get out of bed and we're ready to rock the world. We're ready to do whatever it takes to get through the day. Then we have the days where, you know what? I just frustrated. I'm angry. I did not get up on the right side of the bed for some reason this morning. I didn't have my second cup of coffee. Whatever the reason is, it was too much traffic during the day. I couldn't deal with it, and we're just having a really rough go at it. And sometimes you're just blindsided. You don't even know what to say. You don't know to look right, look left, and you're just tired. And then the days you just don't want to get out of bed. So we all have that part of us. We realize when we have that as a part of us, understand that our children could be going through the similar situations, especially the teenagers, which is normal. For many of them, it's very normal to have good days and bad days. When you're there for them on the bad days, those good days will be amazing. So I really want to wish everybody here a bracha. That you should be going into Pesach v'samachta b'chagecha. You should have beautiful simcha of Pesach. It should be enjoyable to the best of your ability. And just take a deep breath and enjoy. And realize there are those out here who are ready to help. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.